All right, welcome back to Unhinged and Unranked. I'm Eighth. I used to think the song Zombies by the Cranberries was actually about salami as a kid, and I'm joined by Slash Rank, the most eligible healer main to probably get top kills on your Marvel Rivals team, and Ross, who definitely knows all of the backdoors to your Samsung fridge. Today we're talking about... Don't laugh, Ross. You're gonna make me laugh. Today we're talking about browser games. Java, Flash, Shockwave, and early Unity, and whatever the heck Roblox is. So what were like I feel like RuneScape is the oldest thing I can think of that ran in a browser. Like, is Java the pretty much the oldest thing there was like that, or were there MUDs that could run on a browser?
I'm not sure. I remember RuneScape was the first MMO browser game that I played, but before that was Newgrounds, I think. If that's encompassed in what we're talking about here, those are little Flash games.
Yeah, I grew up with RuneScape for one. RuneScape was hype as heck in like RuneScape 1 days, or now old school RuneScape. Kind of like the WoW thing. It's one of those games where they realize, oh, people really liked the original version before we did all of this, so let's just roll it back to that patch, and there's a separate product. Free money.
Yeah, they're monetizing that nostalgia.
Yep. And I mean, I played multiple like iterations of RuneScape. I liked all of them. I wasn't as elitist about one over the other than as a lot of people were. And I used to write articles for RuneScape, I think when it was the transition to RuneScape 2 or RuneScape 3, back when it's like 2012, whenever there was that like Sky Island, I mentioned it before, when they added the rune crafting place where you could grind that on the Sky Islands, and they had just added like a Queen Dragon quest kind of thing and all of that whole era where the combat update was about to come out was in beta. I was writing articles for RuneScape in those days. But RuneScape was like it's one of the biggest MMOs of all time, but also one of the longest running of all time. I feel like we always think of WoW as like the thing that is mainstream that people think of as being influential. But RuneScape was a very heavy hitter too, really, like statistically, at least numerically, is a big deal.
It had a wide reach. I mean, I think when you encounter people online playing games today, it's hard to find people in their 30s that have been gaming since they were teens that haven't played RuneScape at some point or another.
Absolutely. Like, what was your childhood if you weren't playing RuneScape? If you weren't selling air runes in the Grand Bazaar, what were you doing with your life?
It was pretty wild how easy it was to scam some people in that game because there wasn't any regulated trade. And if you could convince someone to just follow you out into the wilderness, then hey, free loot bag.
Just walk north, right?
PKers.
I remember that. I just remember doing a shit ton of mining in that game and then trying to sell the ore. I don't even know for what.
But also, the hell we talking about RuneScape? Because RuneScape early was coded in Java. I mean, it was a browser game, but it wasn't a Flash game. I mean, they have a client proper now, but kind of when it was web browser based, it was mostly all in Java. Now that it's got a proper client, it's shifted to C++.
Pivoted the whole language now, so it's genuinely a different engine now.
Yeah. As soon as they swap to the dedicated client, you just from a local side, you can get a lot more power out of C++. And Java, like, it runs on a lot of things, but it doesn't run fast on a lot of things.
Yeah, C++ is pretty like low level as far as performance goes, right? It's just also theoretically a little bit harder to use. See, this is going to seg right into the game engine episode we're going to have coming up. Ross is going to start cooking again. We're going to have to hold him back. We're going to have to do like non-lethal takedown. He's going to start talking about hierarchies again. He's like, no, get the taser.
No, just trying to get rich. Lemonade stand. Retire early.
Going into like Flash games era, I grew up with like Congregate and Armor Games and Newgrounds and that stuff. And you know, that was the big deal back in the day, like the good old Fancy Pants Adventures and Sonny and Gemcraft. Like Gemcraft's still pretty much my favorite tower defense franchise of all time. As much as I simp for Arc Knights, And like I like Dungeon Defenders and Bloons, which Bloons I think was Flash as well, but I didn't play Bloons in that era. I played Gemcraft. But like they had just huge games like that. Sonny, we were just talking about that in one of our discussions. Sonny was like, I feel like kind of the big blockbuster sort of game for Flash stuff because it was kind of cinematic. It was a serious game. And some of those Flash games were pretty sophisticated too. And you had other, I don't know what tech it was, but if you remember, I think it was like Dan Ball Powder or something like that. And Powder Game, where it was like a simulation of, it was basically a game that was just particle physics, the game. And you could like spawn different materials and they'd react with each other. But the whole game engine of whatever it was just particles. Like you didn't really have proper objects or anything. It was just dropping stuff and see what it did.
No, that's
that
Flash.
Was Flash too.
Yeah, Flash was originally actually designed not for gaming. It was originally designed to add like animations and graphics to websites. But the cat got a little out of the bag as like more people started to get into computer science. So it really spawned a whole lot of creative uses of it that were none of what it was designed for. It actually didn't even get that much use as making websites
it was
pretty.
The Gary's mod of technology at the time. Wasn't it? It was used in a lot
Absolutely.
of professional animation outside of just browser animation too, right? Wasn't it? I thought it was used for 2D animation pretty heavy at that time. Like that was the thing to go to if you're doing 2D animation.
Early CG for sure, because it was the thing with it. You didn't have to worry about cross-platform. There wasn't a ton of operating system diversity, so like you just had to make it work on one type of system, and it just worked.
Now just everything's HTML5 if you're gonna do something in the browser. Say, hey, you can export this Unity thing to HTML5. And you had Adobe Shockwave. I don't actually know what the origin of Shockwave was either, but I remember that being used for like 3D browser games, and Shockwave was pretty cool, at least for a while.
And you had Roblox to install it. You had to keep it updated if you wanted to go to those gaming websites to play the games.
Was the origin of Shockwave? That was like the era of Adobe, I feel like. Like that's what placed them probably so high up. They had Photoshop, obviously, and their whole suite of tools. But like in that era, it was like so many things across so many platforms was just all Adobe stuff propping it up.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's how they got to the top now. Now they can't.
Yeah, now they just sit there.
Yep.
I mean, Adobe Flash, Adobe Shockwave, they're both Adobe products.
Yeah.
It looks like it was the predecessor, Shockwave. I know it was used more for like early CD games, and it had a lot of good audio plugins, but
right.
It did die earlier than Flash.
Flash was also called Macromedia Flash, right? Because Adobe bought Macromedia, so it was really Macromedia that made both of these, and then Adobe was clever and bought them. That was 2005. That's when life was so good. Life was so good in 2005.
Yeah, that was when the industry was moving into DSL and broadband internet and moving away from dial-up. I guess that's kind of when
dial-up started to be a lot less common around there.
The Flash games were small. They would load on dial-up, but once people started getting faster internet, it started moving away from it, I guess. And that's probably what caused its downfall, because people didn't need to use it anymore.
Well, I mean, a lot of what Flash did is it loaded it on your local system, right? Like nowadays you're playing it from the server, but then you actually had the code loaded into your system. That's why it was fast even on that, because it wasn't very large to transfer to begin with, and pretty much you were just playing it all locally. Like if it saved your progress or something, that would pretty much all be locally. So if your system got wiped, you would lose your save file. But if there was like a high score list or something, that's the little bit that it actually would send.
Oh, okay. I didn't know how any of that worked.
Weren't monitoring users, didn't know how people broke their stuff. It made it harder to fix stuff sometimes, actually.
Now we have to give all these games permissions and rootkit level fucking anti-cheat permissions on the computer even to get into the game.
So you could still have hackers.
No billionaires today. Y'all ever played Lemonade Stand? I know we talked a little about like some tower defenses and stuff like that, and some like explorer type games, roguelikes.
I did not.
But
What was it?
y'all ever played Lemonade Stand?
The Flash game?
So it would, yeah, Flash game, Lemonade Stand. It's still up. You can play it.
I don't think I remember playing it.
It simulated a lemonade stand. So it had some weather simulated depending on the day. Had a little bit of temperature, like it's cloudy or sunny. It's cloudy. How much are you going to sell your lemonade for? There's a variable cost of inputs. So cups cost so much, lemons cost so much. So you had to do a little bit of a management there if you were thinking inside the box. But you're not going to be a billionaire off a lemonade stand like that.
Still, yeah, cool math games.
That was a fun intro into integer. Yeah, and early coding. They didn't have many boundary constraints on that. So instead of selling your lemonade for, positive amounts of money, you could sell it for negative amounts of money. And it turns out that it would sell really fast when you're selling it for like negative $50,000 a cup.
For the lemonade.
But the integer only supports down to like negative 2 billion. So once you exceed negative 2 billion, it then loops back around at positive 2 billion. So your score goes so down low, it goes back to the highest possible value it could set. So then you just don't sell anymore. And then you're like, hey, I made $2 billion selling lemonade.
I'm playing it right now. This is so nostalgic. This is artwork.
Yeah, this is interesting. This is kind of a little bit educational about how supply and demand works. Too.
What I'm getting is that the only place in school we learned any economics properly was from RuneScape and cool math games. That's the only thing that actually prepared us for the real world.
Yeah, there were a few typing games.
Yeah.
Those were decent.
Oh, true.
Few and far between.
Mavis Beacon, or was it called Mavis Beacon? I don't know. I remember playing that.
Yep. Man, that's been a while since I heard that name.
I don't think that they make that anymore.
I just thought of a game that was hype to me as a kid. It was called Pirate Galaxy, and I think it was on Java, probably. It was like a 3D space MMO, which there you go. You know why Eighth liked it. It was a space game, but it had pretty good graphics. Like, it was pretty high tech at the time. And you were like flying around on planets and, farming enemies. You're fighting aliens and stuff. It was trying to be a serious game, but it was pretty good. And then I saw this other one. I remember this game, but I didn't remember that it was playable in a browser, but it was Vendetta Online. And that one's on Mac and Linux and Android and Windows. And I guess it was playable in a browser at some point. And that was a big, another space game, a space MMO from, it looks like maybe 2004. I remember it from later. I didn't play it when it first came out, but I was always looking for those kinds of games. Part of the reason I was looking for those kinds of games is because all of my gaming could only happen at a library, so I had to find games that didn't need admin permissions to install and or could run on the browser. So it was all about those Flash games and Java and early Unity once Unity came around.
Man, I'm trying to look through this list to see if I can recognize any of these games, but I don't remember any of the Flash games that I played. I remember the browser games, maybe like Realm of the Mad God and RuneScape, but those are not like in this genre of Flash game to me.
What about Kitten Cannon?
Does not ring a bell.
That was a good one on Newgrounds.
Kitten Cannon.
Yeah, you would shoot a kitten out of a cannon and see how far you could launch it.
That sounds like Angry Birds kind of to me.
It was similar to Angry Birds, except in Angry Birds, I guess you're like trying to topple or like there's an objective target, and this is just how far can you get. Launch it, hit a TNT, and watch the cat fly off the screen.
Wait till we tell Slash about Happy Wheels. Do you know what Happy Wheels is?
Happy Wheels, what's that?
Do you remember Happy Wheels? Do you remember that, Ross?
I don't think I played any Flash racing games.
Happy Wheels was very user content generated, and it was the later browser game era, but early like YouTube getting really big era. It was like the Tobuscus PewDiePie kind of era of YouTube, and all of the YouTubers were playing Happy Wheels because it was a physics-based game where you'd make custom levels so people would, send in their levels or whatever for the YouTubers to play. And it's like a pretty violent game, but it's all physics based. So it lends itself well naturally to just infinite YouTube content. But that thing was huge back in the day. I used to watch a lot of Happy Wheels. I watched Tobuscus playing Happy Wheels so much as a kid.
Tobuscus? Who's Tobuscus?
Is an old YouTuber as well. Wow, that makes me feel like you're older than me, but that makes me feel old. Like talking about Tobuscus as someone not knowing who Tobuscus was. Do you know who PewDiePie was or is? I mean, PewDiePie is so big.
PewDiePie, I know that person. Yeah, he's pretty popular.
Tobuscus was like basically opposite PewDiePie. Like those two, the community basically had a rivalry between them. I don't think they really had a rivalry between themselves, but the community did as people do.
Like they had cult followings. Like if you were a Tobuscus guy, you were definitely not a whatever the PewDiePie guy.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like they have like names for their communities, like the streamers do nowadays. I've never seen this Tobuscus guy ever.
Yeah, Happy Wheels was pretty wild.
Yeah, it dropped around 2010. It looks like that was around the peak of Flash games. They were really popping off then, and a lot of times exactly the situation. Kids playing in school, people going to the library, a lot more one-offs. Like you didn't really save your progress in these. Like it was you just kind of play while you had some time and went about your day.
There you go. There's a time code for you, Slash. I feel like Flash stuff was such a huge explosion for indie game development. Like that probably got so many people into indie development because like, hey, here's the actual tools to do it. And you had all these sites that were supporting like, hey, just upload your game here. Might get some ad revenue. It
was entirely supported by the web browser. So like if you're running a Java game or something, you have to have Java installed. But if you're running Flash in a web browser, for a while it was integrated directly into the browser, so you didn't actually have to install anything. It made it work on lots of different systems really well that way.
I remember Portal, the Flash version. I played that too. Somebody made a Flash version of Portal. It was 2D, but it was Portal, and it worked pretty good. That's one of those games I did actually beat Slash. So I beat Flash Portal.
That's surprising. Wait, is it the same thing as the one that's on Steam? The standalone?
It's not the same game, but it's the same concept. It's just 2D. But yes, I've beaten both of those as well. Those are some of the rare games that I've actually beaten.
What in the world? This fucking thing is crazy looking. This looks nothing like the real Portal.
You don't need Portal. We have Portal at home. Portal at home.
I remember some like shooters I like I think it was called Bubble Tanks or something like that. It's like a top-down game where you'd edit your own little like bubble craft together. Is basically a bullet hell kind of thing, or like twin stick shooter. Maybe not twin stick shooter. I think there was physics to it, so you had like turn radius and stuff, but you would basically design your own little ship tank thing and try and traverse between bubbles and not die, and that would get you more resources to upgrade your tank. Is that what it's called? Is a bullet? It's like Bubble Tank, Bubble Blast, something. Bubble Tanks. It was Bubble Tanks. Yeah, Bubble Tanks was hype. They made tower defenses,
I don't know.
too.
I never really played many of these. I'm looking this up. I've never seen this game before.
I used to play an offshoot of Counter-Strike 2 that was browser-based. I can't remember what that one was either, but it was pretty much just like Counter-Strike Source, but a browser version.
A couple of them tried to break into turn-based and like have multiplayer Flash games, but it was like you weren't playing against another player in a different location. It was like local, and you were like both on the same keyboard. So it was either like one person was WASD, one person was numpad, or like you're taking turns at the keyboard kind of thing. Old school multiplayer.
Oh yeah, I could
I
see
remember
that.
artillery
That probably
games.
didn't catch on too much, did it? Because I feel like people that are playing on PC,
No.
they're usually by themselves. I think the closest I did play around on Newgrounds, but I didn't have like main games. I just went on there when I was bored and played like random games. But do you guys remember when MySpace and Facebook were like, when it was in between, like it was phasing away from MySpace and going to Facebook? Facebook had games on them. Like I played a lot of
Farmville.
Mafia Wars and Mob Wars which were like little gangster, like turn-based. It was a multiplayer game, but it was like in the browser. And you would try to like whack the other person, and it would give you random opponents that you could fight against.
Those got really popular, and that probably is what was early gacha games, early games like that. It kind of pioneered asynchronous play, because like you were playing with other people, but like it was an almost NPC like interaction, even though it was another player. You weren't playing against the player live, but you were playing against their setup, or you were attacking their base kind of thing. And it let you interact with a lot of people, but it did without having to have that robust connection or worry about lag, really.
100%. And you're right about the energy used to regenerate slowly over time, which was what you needed. That it was the resource that you needed in order to play and take turns against other people, and you could buy it. So like that, I guess that is kind of a gacha sort of, or a gacha mechanic.
Pay to win.
Early microtransactions.
It was foretelling the future of humanity. That made me think of other kind of competitive games like that, / like I think it was Space Invasion and O Game, which were definitely, I remember them being pay to win, and they were like those, they're like what you have for mobile games now, but basically you're running your own like kind of space empire, and then you could invade other people's planets and take all of their shit, and then they were trying to do the same for yours, and everything happened like in real time, so it would take days to build up things or weeks to build up things. It was pretty much all waiting. It was like basically a PvP idle strategy, and that was its own whole genre, I feel like, that got propped up during the browser game era. And also that's when microtransactions started becoming prominent too, because it's like, oh, you could wait for 7 weeks to invade this guy's planet, or you could pay to invade this guy's planet right now and take all his shit.
Oh man, yeah, this game looks kind of fun. If I had known about this, I probably would have played it.
Which one are you looking at right now?
O Game.
Oh, game, yeah. My dad and I both played
Space
Invasion a lot. Space Invasion's on Steam, apparently, and in O Game's still going. It labels itself as the most successful browser game of all time, or in the universe, rather. Yeah, that's actually, if you search it on Google, the most successful browser game in the universe. Bold claim. 2.3 stars on Google Play. That's impressive. Even botting couldn't. But you know what? O Game was hype. I'm calling it. O Game was hype. They might have 2.3 stars on Google Play, but they got at least 4.2 in my heart. There's also artillery games. You remember those? Like, I think you had Zomg or something like that. Zomg, you had Shell Shock. They're basically games like Worms. Like, they were turn-based, usually PvP, and you would take turns trying to aim a trajectory as good as possible to rail it into whoever's on the other team. And those games were a lot of fun. Shell Shock was a good time. Actually, I see Shell Shock live in my Steam library right here. It perfectly scrolled to that somehow. That's on Steam too. I think it's free to play. But I used to play that. Yeah, Shell Shock Live is still going. It released in 2020 on Steam. But it was fun.
I vaguely remember Artillery, but it being a tank game or something. I thought it was just a tank game.
They probably are. Like Shell Shock Live, you are playing as tanks. You have a bunch of different weapons you get, and then you're trying to aim them. Like, you had shots that bounced a bunch. You had like a black hole or something. You had ones that were artillery, where you'd try and shoot them straight up. So the trajectory of every weapon was different, and then the terrain would deform as it was getting hit by stuff. So you'd try and get yourself in cover and like shoot over slopes, or you get really close and like do like a very low velocity shot just right over the slope and things like that. It was pretty fun.
That actually does sound kind of fun. The one that you're talking about is called what? Shell Shock?
Shell Shock Live. I feel like the problem with this now is people would just cheat. People would just get an overlay and be like, oh yeah, perfect trajectory. This is mathed out for me. Like, there's no way they're going to do that legit. Unless you add RNG to that, and then that would have its own downsides. But people would 100% cheat now.
Yeah, there was some pretty low-hanging fruit on the cheating there, because they didn't have, technical term is ASLR, but it's address space memory randomization. and essentially that obfuscates the code while it's running. Flash did not have that. So if you were walking around and you notice that, hey, you have 100 health, you could load up something that just edits memory like Cheat Engine or something and just search for 100 and look for how many times that is and change one of the 100s to 99. Did your health change? Okay, cool. I have 10 million now. How much ammo do you want? How much gold do you want? Just edit it right in. That's kind of wild they started doing microtransactions in some of those types of games because you could just hack them pretty easy, just live modification. They were all local.
I just thought, there are like the .io games. Those are browser games that are modern, right? You got a few different.
Oh, true. Yeah, like Sketch.io. I've played that before.
Yeah.
What was was it Snake.io we were playing with Beard? There's something like that.
Yeah, I do remember playing that, and it was fucking making me rage because it was like I could get to like 5K or 50K. It was something like that, and then I'd get eaten by a bigger worm. That game was fun.
Did the Capitalist games start as Flash games, like Adventure Capitalist? Were those originally? I see them on Congregate. Is that where they came from?
Congregate, Armor Games. There were a lot of them.
It was first released for browsers and Android and published by Congregate. Look at that. That was like later browser era, kind of. I get, when would we define as later browser era? I mean, 2020 is when Flash died, but I feel like probably the mid-2000s.
Later, post 2012, 2013-ish, they really started to decline around that time because around 2012, smartphones started to pick up more. iPhones started getting big, and most browsers started to signal that they wouldn't be supporting Flash for as long. So that started to drive people to other methods and drove a lot more mobile game development for phones instead.
And mobile's huge now. Plus, there's sort of the almost two kind of industries merged into that because, I mean, there are also browser games like the Facebook games Slash was talking about, the casual games. Like, that was its own whole genre that popped up at that time. And somehow they got all the Facebook moms to start gaming, which is kind of impressive. There were things before Minion memes. It wasn't always Minion memes. But then all of that kind of stuff sprawled into what's now mobile gaming. And that's why it's so hard to find anything that's good on the Play and the Apple stores. I found some good games on there. But for a while, it was just all trash. So much of stuff on there was trash. But then you'd occasionally find like some good indie RPG or something.
It's because they weren't being monetized, right? You could just play it to play it. Someone did it in their free time as a side project, whatever. They're being creative. There's a lot more monetization focus I see out there now, which drives some of those, you need to get your energy, manage this, add in arbitrary time gates, that sort of thing. And that definitely impacts the gameplay, right? Because like if you're trying to add in like a 1 week wait time, like you're not thinking as much about the game mechanics probably.
Yeah, since they carved out their own entire market share separate from PC and console gaming, they could have their own monetization rules that people didn't know to object to yet. It's like, when the horse armor came around, people lost their fucking minds. Console and PC games, but off in the mobile space, they don't know what's going on. It could be all pay to win. That's just fine. But yeah, a lot of those for the Flash era especially were probably very much just passion projects. Like people were just making the thing just to make it. And same for a lot of the animation stuff. Like you had a lot of cool YouTube animations like ASDF movie and animator versus animation. That stuff was hype as heck. And I don't imagine at that time it was profitable yet. I don't know how YouTube monetization even worked in like 2006 or 2007. And this is like the start of all this. This is like a ton of browser things at that time because you had whatever we were just talking about was in 2005 and YouTube was like 2006, I think. It was either 2005, 2006. So much of my childhood was spent in libraries. It's like reading books, Flash games, watching Elder Scrolls Oblivion Let's Plays, like probably the original Let's Plays before Let's Plays became really big.
Early YouTube was a lot different. I'm not sure how they did much of I know they did sell ads early on. I guess videos were a lot smaller too.
Yeah.
You're not having a 4K video in 2005. You're trying to
480p was the HD back in those days. Oh, this looks so good. There's so many pixels, dude. Actually, Minecraft, I was just talking about that. That Minecraft Classic was Java and could run in a browser. It's all connected. There's RuneScape and then there's Minecraft. Dude, all of that, like 2 decades, each decade was started with one Java sandbox game that blew up the industry. This era is just, DLSS ruining our lives. Instead, we don't have no Java sandbox games blowing up the industry.
From an anti-cheat point of view, I guess some of that's reasonable. I mean, if you're trying to do like multiplayer in a Flash game environment, like it's incredibly not secure. That's definitely one of the reasons why it was so easy to use, is because it was early. It was just designed to do its thing, but none of it had any secure. It was so open. Man, that was really rough. Like scrolling through some of those early pop-up ads. You won $1 million. You're the 1 millionth visitor. Congratulations. Click here. It's probably not a virus, right? Don't know what that flash code's running in the background after you click it.
Man, when I was playing these games, I didn't even know that I needed to worry about shit like that. God knows what information they got from me.
Terrified the kids nowadays.
And then all the I remember people installing a bunch of like toolbars and stuff to their browsers too. So those would be the pop-ups like, hey, here's another toolbar. Someone did have like 5 of these toolbars. Like, what are you using it for? Why are you installing this?
You don't even use it.
Stop it.
But do you remember back then,
toolbars kind of died off.
Installers used to have things that it would prompt you to install like that. Like the Yahoo toolbar would be in like some random fucking program that you were installing on the computer, and it would ask you if you wanted to add it in.
That hasn't changed so much, actually, though that did used to be a lot more visually obvious, I would say, and sometimes they are, but you'd be surprised how much installing stuff nowadays, like installing a HP software for a damn printer, it's like, do you want to try a free trial of McAfee? And if you're not paying attention and just hit yes, like, you're installing McAfee now.
Good luck, Commander. Into the dark zone. Like, why do I hear boss music? Why is my GPU fan making boss music? Looking at rewind here back to Adventure Cap list, you start out with a lemonade stand. It's an homage. I think there's a lot of games I didn't realize started as Flash games that are still big Steam releases. Like, I knew of the ones I already talked about, like Gemcraft. Gemcraft's on Steam. I used to play the heck out of Gemcraft. Its whole gimmick was that it was a tower defense where you're basically a mage and you combined gems together. Your gems were your towers, and they each had different effects. And you could combine gems to make new towers that would have the mixed effects of both gems. I think you could do, like, tricolor gems and stuff like that. You could keep combining them. And so it was a simple but cool mechanic for tower defense where you came up with creative combinations to get yourself through the levels.
Oh, I've never seen this game before.
Wow, some of these people on Steam.
The last release was 2020.
Gemcraft?
This guy's got 99
Just
hours.
last time it was updated.
Gemcraft Frostborn Wrath.
That's aggressive, sir.
That was one I liked because Gemcraft, I mean, one, it was creative, but it was also one of those few Flash games that actually like pseudo saved your progress if you were playing on the same system. So you could actually like get to level 3 or something and then continue from where you left off last time instead of like starting over from level 1 every time.
Games that let you save your progress if you had an account with their site, I thought, right? Like, didn't Congregate and stuff. Like, if you had a Congregate account, you could save your progress or something like that on certain games. Gemcraft actually also had a pretty good art style too. Like, Flash games were all over the place for visual style. Some of them were really cool. Some of them were pretty straightforward. Some of them actually were like trying to be really serious games. Like Gemcraft's one of them. They had kind of a like very medieval fantasy kind of grim painterly style going on. It's like, oh, this is a serious game. This is a grown-up game. Remember, requisitioning a school laptop and then playing Gemcraft in the like history room. The good old days in Fancy Pants Adventures. Fancy Pants Adventures was pretty fluid mechanically. I feel like I remember it being like really fluid. Like platformers now are not as fluid as that is. And a lot of those games were very physics based too, which is also something that we don't focus that much on anymore. We kind of take for granted. It's like the physics just works how it works. It's like it's either floaty or it isn't. Those games, that's like the whole thing. Like Line Rider, Is like, you know, you're drawing your tracks and stuff, and the physics were the entire gameplay, or me showing Slash Happy Wheels there. The physics was all of the mechanics. That was all of the gameplay. And somehow that was really fun. I mean, yeah, Gary's mod exists.
QWOP. That had some fucked up physics. QWONP. So one controlled your knee and leg. So like one was your knee, one was your foot. And the O and the P was your leg and the foot on the other leg. And you had to run a race. And like if you put one foot out in front and forgot to put the other, well, you didn't run and just fell over.
Oh, I remember seeing this. I didn't really play it. Like I played like for like 10 seconds, you know, because of like the videos or whatever that I saw of it. I've seen this before though.
Surprisingly difficult.
Oh yeah. I'm trying to do it right now and it's not going well. What is this game?
Yeah, that's when you show off, look, I can run and quap. Show off those mad gamer skills.
I remember like different browser MMOs. I can't think. Oh, I remember one that was maybe Gaia Online. It was something like that. Oh yeah, it was that. Look at this shit. Was this the one I played? I feel like there were multiple of them.
Gaia Online.
Habbo Hotel. That was one.
Oh yeah, Habbo and Club Penguin.
Looks pretty close to Gaia.
This might not
Club
be the
Penguin.
one I was thinking of. It had Gaia in the name, but I think it was a different Gaia Online in this one.
I almost like those a little bit just because they took at least in modern gaming is a more tasteful view on some of the microtransactions. Most of their microtransactions were like, and they were totally funded heavily by microtransactions, but by a lot of cosmetics. You buy your hotel, you can decorate, whatever. But compared that to like the Mob Wars where you're just like paying for time gates, like, I don't know.
I think Tibia was Tibia originally a browser game too? It was. I did not play that one.
I never played it when it was a browser game.
I knew of it, but I did not play it.
I played it. You didn't miss much.
I played a mobile version. There was like Tibia Me, I think. I played that one. Slash, did you play? Well, you played RuneScape. Yeah. Did you play any other browser MMO?
None that saved like that. Like Realm of the Mad God doesn't really save. I think it saves now because it uses like some kind of cookie system or something. But before it didn't. It was like once you closed the browser or deleted or ended the connection, you had to restart. But that was the only other browser.
Roguelike anyway.
Yeah. This Quap game has me fucked up.
We haven't seen him walk, how to win. Be fair, we don't know.
He just keeps falling. This is infuriating.
As were a lot of the early browser games. There wasn't much in the way, even in the MMO space, there wasn't a lot. It was more like social focused and maybe a little early monetization focused, but I guess there were some puzzle games in there too.
You made me think of a whole genre. This makes too much sense. You had like the Cat Mario kind of stuff, which was that. Or I Want to Be the Guy, I think it was. You had all those kind of games that were just really, really hard and unfair platformers. Like Cat Mario, basically Super Adventure Box Tribulation Mode is just Cat Mario. It's like everything will one-shot you. You don't know what it is. You don't know what the correct path is. Everything that looks innocent is a trap and will one-shot you. There's definitely a few I'm missing. Cat Mario is probably the big one.
I don't even know if that was just browser games. Early games just in general were kind of a lot more brutal, just in terms of difficulty, time requirements, and not as respectful of the end player's time, I guess.
And then even
That's
computer...
True. The more times you died, the more quarters you got.
Computer games were wicked hard, too. Like, now we think of a Souls-like game as like, that's the hard game, but if that was placed, 20 years ago, it would have been like a moderately difficult to easy game. Oh, there's Unfair Mario. Getting Over It. I Want to Be the Guy. Yep, I remember these ones. There's a whole site for games like Cat Mario. I want to see Slash play Cat Mario. Could you imagine?
These games are fucked up.
The controls wildly varied as well.
So fast.
There was a time before there was much control standardization, so depending on what game, you never knew what the controls were every directions every time.
Fucking dumb. What the hell? It's like on fast forward.
It is running very fast. I'm just button mashing and this is actually working out.
I keep
remember
fucking
this being
falling.
this. See, this is the slash we know, listeners. This is the one who gets absolutely flaming pissed.
This fucking game's stupid. I can't even get past the first fucking pit.
I got to the second pit.
Get good.
Maybe I want to be the guy who wasn't a browser game, but Cat Mario was.
Oh my fucking god. If I fall one more fucking time.
Slash Portal next. We'll have a whole Let's Play series with Slash playing classical rage bait games.
This game is
Be a
not
Pisky,
fun. This is
Pisky
so
in the
dumb.
audience is like, this is the true Slash we enjoy hearing. This is the genuine, 70 proof Slash. You put this Slash in the Glencairn and you sniff it. This is the Slash we're used to.
These games are unhinged.
Yeah, I feel like a lot maybe nowadays there's more idle games. I don't think idle games existed too much as a genre in early Flash.
Probably because of the saving thing, I'm assuming. Other than the pay to win browser MMOs like O Game and Friends. I feel like actually that's a good idea. Idle and casual games could probably be its own whole episode. Like there's so many idle games and like games that are kind of in the middle of being an active game and an idle game. You've got clicker games. You've got like the tycoon games.
Well, Kitten Cannon's sort of like that. The only thing you do is you aim the cannon and you launch. And then the rest is you watch.
I remember, was
Kitten
Roblox? Could you play Roblox in the browser? I feel like you could early on, but you had to install something. You had to install some kind of plugin or something, but you could technically play it through the browser, I thought. I played Roblox back as a kid when it required Windows XP Service Pack 2, and some of the computers I was using had Service Pack 1 instead, so I couldn't play Roblox. The troubles of youth. That had a lot of tycoon games and stuff like that.
I didn't know Roblox existed.
Yeah, Roblox. I was playing Roblox in 2008.
You were right. Roblox was officially released in 2000. That's almost 20 years old. Roblox. That's
it's
wild.
weird to me that it's like a massive multi-billion-dollar corporation now. It's like, this is definitely the spin-off universe. This is not a real timeline. Like, this can't be the real timeline. Roblox is worth billions of dollars now, and people play it still.
Are those games free? The ones that you can download in there? So you only buy Roblox and then you can play anything in it?
Yeah, it's like Gary's mod. It has like a little bit of base game, but most of it is like, it's sort of like an open sandbox in terms of modding, and you kind of make your own game, mini game, your map, and then other players can download the map, and that's what kind of keeps them alive, is players make their own mods and their own game types as well.
Understand.
V-Bucks,
are they taking royalties from
Robux? What were they called? Robux. They were called Robux. Free V-Bucks. I remember. Yeah, there were. I think the people that made levels could also get Robux for selling stuff in their levels. That you could put microtransactions into your stuff because like people would sell VIP shirts or they'd make cosmetics and stuff. People could buy off the marketplace for either free currency or Robux. But then some of those items would give you special powers in their levels. Like I remember when I was playing, you had like raft building games, which is like you literally build your own raft and you try and survive going down a crazy river kind of thing. And then you also had survival kind of stuff. It was like surviving disasters. Be like, okay, build up your little structure, and then here's a tornado, and then the floor's lava, and then this kind of stuff. And then if you had VIP, if you bought their VIP shirt, then you could, have like better materials, or you get special stuff. They had like PvP things, like you could pay to win special items in the PvP levels that people made. And now people made like inside of Roblox, they've made like full Call of Duty games. Like they look almost as good as Call of Duty. And looking at modern Roblox is like, what the heck is going on? Yeah. The editor was pretty good
like
too. Like you had Lewis scripting. And the editor for placing stuff was actually pretty good back in the day, because I remember like making levels with it, and it was reasonably sophisticated.
You could think of it almost like an early app store in a sense too, right? Because you're saying like, how do they make money, right? I mean, they have to buy the game initially, but that's kind of just the base, and people are making their own mods and stuff for it. Sometimes those mods have like little cosmetics or whatever that you can buy. You have to pay with the Roblox money, and maybe the developer of that mod could be getting some of it, but Roblox would be getting a cut. Sell some cosmetics, things like that. And just taking advantage of children under 12 having access to their parents' credit card.
And having the kids develop the game for you. just make a sort of functional game engine. And like it was sort of functional, like it had physics and stuff. And I didn't realize how much Roblox I remember, because I remember how the lag was when like there was too much physics going on and the game would do like super slow-mo with the physics, and the block is like the game's running good, but the actual physics themselves is like this block is moving once every 3 seconds. Also, early Unity let you play games in the browser. I remember there were like some pretty cool early kind of browser MMOs. You had to download Unity, but once you had Unity, you could run anything that was a Unity object in the browser. And you had one of the biggest ones, probably the first time I encountered Unity, which I didn't know it was going to become like a super big deal. I thought it was like, oh, this is pretty cool tech. This is going to be a big thing, but not for the reason I thought it was. You had Fusionfall, which Cartoon Network made a full MMO that was like a crossover of all their properties at the time. So like Samurai Jack and Powerpuff Girls, and I think Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends was in it. I think that was that time as for Cartoon Network. Actually, all those big cartoon sites had like a ton of browser games. Cartoon Network had their own whole site that was all Flash games for their different properties.
I played
Fusionfall was pretty hype. Fusionfall had like platforming and a big open world, and almost it was pseudo action combat. It was like trying to be third person shooter combat. It wasn't really a third person shooter, but it controlled like that. It was doing like the Star Wars Galaxies kind of thing. But that game was pretty cool. It's still there's a few fan made projects that have continued it. And I was trying one of those as like Open Fusion or something like that. But that game was super nostalgic. But it had, for the time, solid-ish graphics. You know, it was like a full MMO and had cool mechanics and stuff. And then, yeah, those I played a lot of those Cartoon Network games too. It had like there's a Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends one that I remember was like kind of pseudo open world where you'd go around the mansion and do different quests and stuff as Blue. And like that was so hype as a kid.
Man, that's reminding me pop-up ads, man. There not only were there a ton of ads on some of those Flash games, especially if you're doing like some of the Cartoon Network games, like so many pop-up ads. That's something I don't miss. It was just too Swiss cheese. Like it was never designed to be secure, and as they tried to put it on more systems, like Google Chrome was a good example, early Firefox, like they were getting lawsuits because people just kept hacking their stuff and they just kept building in native support on these things. So like if I'm trying to use a banking app through this browser and it has this, you can pop it pretty easy. That definitely drove a lot of pressure, at least for them to drop some of that support, which, I mean, once the browsers drop the support, a lot of devs wouldn't be on it as much.
Right.
Can no longer just go to that library and play it without it requiring another download now.
Now I live in the era where I've got the computer to download all the games and I got the money to pay to win them, baby.
That's why you play so many gachas.
Pay to win maxing.
Exactly, which leads us right into, we're going to wrap up here, but as voted on by our gaming community, the Eternal Senate, next week is going to be gambling in video games, which will be very interesting because I'm the resident gacha simp. But we're going to cover everything from like loot boxes and a sense of pride and accomplishment all the way to gachas and other forms of gambling that appear in video games. It'll probably be these two being like, this is a bad thing, and me being like, okay, but waifus, like, look at these thighs. Have you seen these in Unreal Engine? Like, it's ethical. They're ethically sourced waifus.
Remember, kids, live, laugh, toaster bath.
Love it.
I'm legally obligated to tell you not to do that. Just like drink oat milk instead, or just anything not that. Health insurance doesn't like us. Sorry, guys. It was because of Ross. That's why it cost so much. Thank you for joining us again for Unhinged and Unranked, and we'll see you next week to talk about why waifus are ethical and why Battlefront 2 is not.